because Russia has taken over the Republican Party through Donald Trump. To the extent that Donald Trump has taken over the Republican Party, it is the same as saying Russia has taken over the Republican Party. Trump is completely without, you might say, stick it not. So long as it accrues to his power and his money, he doesn't care. Further than that, in my opinion, he's been laundering money for Russia for decades. They have the goods on him. As soon as you do something illegal for a foreign government, they own you. As soon as a politician takes $500 from Russia, Russia owns that politician, because of course it is illegal to take contributions from a foreign power if you're a politician in the United States. Something important to, and that's why Russia is so important. They're not important, again, they're not important because of their economy. Their economy is one step below Brazil and one step above South Korea for GDP. And it's not doing any great guns right now. They've divested their sovereign wealth of Western securities, which means they've got junk in their sovereign wealth. Russia does. They in the last 15 years, the income of the average Russian has gone down 10%, which stinks. There's people think that Russia has, we've got this feeling, this philosophy that as time goes on, things get better. It only gets better if better people work hard to make it better. If you have people who are working to accrue power and money for themselves, things do not get better. They rot. And they rot in a more and more stinking way as time goes on. Things can get better, but only if people work very hard to make them better, and think very hard about how to do it, and have wisdom and insight and goodwill to work to make them better. Change is only good if it's good change. What doesn't kill you does not make you stronger. Ask a person who loses their eyesight. Ask a person who's lost the use of continence. Ask a person who's lost the use of their limbs. Very well. Only good change is good. Bad change is bad. We had the Tsars of the Russias, and they had some control. That is, they were imperial, but at the same time they had to please the merchant class. So they had some definite controls over what they could do. Soviets took over the merchant class. They took over the means of production, it was with a centralized economy, and that got rid of the halters and the restrictions of the wealthy within the country, because those who might be wealthy were those that the Politburo determined should have wealth and the Dutches and good things and nice cars. But they did have an ideology that they purportedly had to toe the line to the communist ideology, and they had classes about ideology, and there were people in every factory and every army battalion who were there to make sure that political ideology was followed. And then when the Soyuz Sovietskih Sotsialisticheskih Respublik, with the Soviet Republic, went away, everybody thought, oh, yippee, there goes the Soviet Union, we won. And what? And now you don't have the ideology to give any restrictions to Putin. He's a dictator. He's just a dictator without, and not only a dictator, but he also controls the wealth of that country and doles it out to his friends and cronies and lickspittles. And if one of his billionaires gets too uppity, he can take their money away. He can kill them. He can imprison them. If there's a political opponent, he can have that person poisoned. He can have that person imprisoned. He can have that person killed. Is there a journalist causing trouble? Whoopsie doodles, he just fell off a tall building and he's dead. So we have not had progress in Russia, in my opinion. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse over time. And the economy is doing very poorly in Russia. Well, it's the old butter and guns. If you're going to invade Crimea, if you're going to become involved militarily in Syria, if you're going to go and invade Ukraine, apparently, then that's going to cost a boatload of money. And what's going to happen then? It means that the people who live in your country aren't going to be doing all that hot. And your approval rating is going to go down, 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 down. So the reason, and so you might think, oh my goodness, look at that. The economy's going down, approval rating going down. But there's a sense in which none of that matters to Putin. He's a dictator. Do you think Kim Jong-un cares about the suffering of the people in his country? Shoot, he's got toys. Why should he care? And that's power corrupts, and it always corrupts. There's several dangers. One is that you still have a centralized economy, so that if Putin decides that one part of the country is going to get a lot of resources, such as cyber misinformation, such as helping Donald Trump, because he knows he controls Donald Trump, because he knows all of the crimes that he's done, and he has receipts for every penny that, in my opinion, Donald Trump has laundered for Russian oligarchs. Then he can move money around any way he wants within that economy, and that makes him, you might say him as opposed to Russia. In a sense, we're not talking about Russia anymore. We're talking about a kleptocracy of Putin and the people who depend on Putin for their riches. And as I say, who can lose their riches either by death or imprisonment in a heartbeat, just according to Putin's whim. But and so through all that, what do we get? We get an evil empire that will try to pull down every democracy in the world. It will always work to breed confusion, division, and lack of trust in those governments within their own people. And the internet has made that so much easier. Q is Russia. To me, that has the distinctive fingerprints of Russia all over it. Anytime you talk to our NSA or CIA and you say, hey, is Russia involved in the internet to try to pull down democracies around the world? They get all red in the face and say, duh. Oh, good night. So that is where we stand with Russia. Putin's favorability ratings are going down because the people living in his country are not supportive of him, because their standard of living is going down. We see some of the same things happening with the Republican Party in the United States as they've embraced Trumpism, and through Trump, Russia's invigorating. The Republican Party is trying right now very, very hard to be a minority ruling class, both through gerrymandering and just basically through the fact that states with less populations have higher per capita representation in government. And so the key is to make it so you can reduce your opposition's ability to vote by, not completely. If you just reduce it by 7%, you've accomplished what you want to accomplish. Through the voter suppression laws and through the anti-demonstration laws, so that they can repress any dissent. Right now, you see tremendous courage and fortitude of people in Russia who are protesting. And thousands of them are being thrown into jail and then losing their jobs, then losing where they live, and then being harassed over and over again. That is exactly what the Republicans in our country now are attempting to do with their new laws that make it legal or provide a measure of immunity for people with cars to run down demonstrators, and increase penalties for people who do protest, and decrease the ability of their opponents to vote. So the best way to look at it, insofar as Russia is concerned, is to think of him as a nascent Kim Jong-un. To a large extent, he's feeling like he doesn't need, there's no reason that he needs to listen to the citizens of his country, because he controls the economy and he controls the government, and he controls the media. Now the problem with that is that the tool that he's using against all other countries, the internet, is the same tool that can be used, you might say, against him, but what it is that people can actually find out what is going on in the world and in their own country, because they have access to the internet too. And so the citizens of Russia have the ability to know what's going on, and that kind of knowledge does not help. In the old days, hey, Putin controlled the airwaves and the Pravda newspaper and Izvestia, and that's where people could get their information. And so they were kept very, very ignorant. Hey, I'm doing great in Crimea. You should see the wonderful things we're doing in Syria. Oh my goodness, we have to save our poor brethren in Ukraine and in the Ukraine and help them out. Oh my goodness, they're suffering so. Well, today that's a little bit harder for Putin to do, because people can find out through the internet that he's using to pull down and work evil within democracies around the world. People can use that to get information as well.